Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. This is a paid request for Jason. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, whether it be a topic, a tier list, movie review, re-review, commentaries, streams, video game playthroughs for an hour, a full playthrough, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal. Do have a Cash App as well. Links are down below in the info box. I'll get to as soon as I can. And for those who sent them, thank you. I really do appreciate it. Now this is for Godzilla vs. Biollante, which came out around 1989, give or take. Now, before I start with Godzilla films, for those who don't know, I grew up not getting to see a lot of Godzilla films back in the day. There was a handful that either I could find on VHS tape or they were taped off of... No, I mean, I didn't... No, it was VHS tapes. It was Godzilla vs. Megalon, Son of Godzilla. I think maybe my aunt sent us tapes. That was like the one that had Godzilla's kid actually talk to the kid. Which I always forget what the hell... Godzilla's Revenge. Godzilla's Revenge. Maybe Godzilla vs. Smog Monster? Like, it wasn't a whole lot of them I got to see back in the day. And maybe that's why, one of the reasons why I did enjoy and still do Godzilla in 1998, because I wasn't this guy that was a connoisseur of Godzilla and watched multiple ones. And I still like that film as a piece of entertainment. I don't think it needed to be called Godzilla, and that would have saved a lot of headache. If you called it something, I think of a generic title, I think Godzilla in 1998 would have had a bit of a better reputation. I really do. But I have at one point seen all the Godzilla films. I like to watch them all again, or hey, if people request more, feel free. Because I remember liking... Okay, I remember like the old ones, liking the first one. And I remember the ones after it. One that had the alternate name Gigantus. But it's like Godzilla Raids Again and Godzilla vs. Mothra. I remember going, okay, whatever. I would say it was the 70s ones that, like, that era that was my favorite. Because Godzilla vs. Smog Monster and Son of Godzilla and even Terror of Godzilla, Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, those were some of my favorites. Something about the mood, something about the dubbing of them, and that's how I first saw them. Either it's just a big piece of nostalgia that flips in my brain that's able to enjoy them more than others do, or something about it just... They worked for me. Or I guess it's also like the Godzilla's superhero years as well. And I thought those were fun. Now, they had Destroy All Monsters, which I thought was, was fine. They left it alone for a while until you had Godzilla 1985, or the Return Godzilla as it was in Japan. It was the Return Godzilla in 84, I think, and then Godzilla 1985 was the American version. Where there was a whole lot of... I forget what soda it was. It was like... Was it Coca-Cola or Dr. Pepper? There was a soda that kept popping up in the American version. I can't remember which one. But yeah, Godzilla 1985, which I honestly thought was kind of a bore to sit through that one. And this is a sequel to that movie. Because the very beginning, I did watch the Japanese version. He did tell me to watch the Japanese version because the American version is notorious for having bad dubbing. Where the dialogue and you have the subtitles, they did not translate well what the person was actually saying. They like added in their curse words and all this other stuff that just kind of messed with the mood of the film a bit. So I did watch the Japanese version. And they have scenes from Godzilla in 1980, like the previous film. How it came back and they attacked it and got trapped in this volcanic mountain, got trapped under. And it's there to this day, or at least this point in the film. And long story short, they looked at the wreckage Godzilla caused during that time. They find these cells, bits that Godzilla skin that was blown off. And apparently this is struggle for this stuff. And I forgot about this because I know I've seen this film once before, but I completely forgot about this. Where there's a damn firefight near the beginning. I'm like, what? Where like these Americans are fighting the Japanese, and the Americans are killing the Japanese because they're stealing it, and then they get killed, and this guy steals it. Because there's the Japanese, the self-defense force that want the cells to use against Godzilla, to create a weapon in case Godzilla comes back, which is this bacteria that eats nuclear energy. Then you have the Saradia Institute. It's supposed to be like in the Middle East, where they want to turn the desert into a greenery and stop using oil wells. So you have this scientist that's trying to use Godzilla's cells and mix in with a plant in order to try to turn desert into a land of green, and not just money. And then you have this American group that you don't see a lot. It's just a couple people been hired to steal and go back to their country with the stuff. So while that's all going on, the scientist has a daughter. There's a bombing, a terrorist bombing. His daughter dies. And sometime later, one leads another. He starts working with the Japan Self-Defense Force. But what he had done is he mixed this Godzilla and cell plant, the Godzilla and plant cells, with his daughter's cells. And thus when those competing groups, the Americans and this assassin or whatever from Saradia, whatever, they're trying to get it, they're fighting each other. This cells have created this plant creature that kills one with a tentacle, the others escape, and it escapes. It escapes, and the next time you see it, it's much more gigantic, and it's called Biollante. And then, at the same time, there's some tremors happening at the mountain, the volcanic, these tremors, and Godzilla has come back. Godzilla wants power, he gets diverted, and ultimately Godzilla fights ships in the water. Japan has this thing called the Super X2 to shoot at Godzilla. Godzilla shoots at it. Fights Biollante, kicks its ass, goes over here, so on and so forth. And does your Godzilla typical thing. Destroys the city, monster fights it, Godzilla wins. Pretty much. Only Biollante's not really a bad creature, it's a good creature. Because it's not... I mean, one, it killed in like self-defense earlier, but it doesn't really kill anybody else. So it is an ally. That's one of the things I completely forgot that Biollante was... Because I will say the creature design is very cool. I think would work as a villain against Godzilla. Where it's this flower with this rose head, but then it has these tentacles, and these tentacles that could trip Godzilla or try to strangle him and toss him around, and then in its second form, it has such force it goes through Godzilla's hand and piece of his shoulder skin, and then it has like these big like crocodile mouth and teeth. I'm okay. I think some pretty cool designs there. And that poster is cool. That is a very cool looking poster. I remember that poster being very striking. And when it gets to the monster stuff, I think they did a really good job in terms of the designs of Godzilla and they make his eyes and mouth move, even his tongue move. It's articulate. I think they did a good job. I know a lot of people feel this is one of the better designs of Godzilla and looks of Godzilla. I can see what they mean by that. I think the look of Biollante, I think, is very cool. All done practically. Can't go wrong with that. Practical is better than CG in my opinion. When it shows Godzilla fighting the military, there's some good looking shots, like when it's in the water. You see the ships firing at Godzilla, and it's like in the same frame, and then Godzilla uses the time of breath to destroy these. Was pretty well constructed in terms of the editing, and it really does feel like these ships are firing at this gigantic asshole named Mr. G. Big G. And then was destroying the city. There's some good model work there. There's some good, I don't want to say puppeteering, but there's good, man in suit action going on. And if you like action stuff, there's some good stuff in there. I would say overall, I thought it was okay. If you wonder why I keep doing this with my mouth, at the end my sinuses get screwed up with the cold weather, so that's why I have to try to do stuff right here again. I said, why are you doing it? Because again, I hate the cold air. I hate it, even with the heater on. It just anyway. Who gives a shit? Oh yeah, that's another thing before I forget. Apparently this villain was made because they wanted a new villain, not just reusing the old ones, which makes sense. That's perfectly fine. And there was a contest winner. It was like a dentist, and the person created this. I'm like, okay, cool. And I think the idea of a plant-like creature kind of works fine in this universe. And it's interesting because this series of films, for the most part, had a bit of continuity, which is not usually the norm. So, for example, there's this character named Mighty, this lady, M-I-K-I, Mighty, I can't pronounce her name, I'm bad with names. She's a psychic. I know she appears in quite a few other films afterward. Like Godzilla vs. Destroyer and Teen Ghidorah and other stuff. Other than GMK. GMK, I think, was kind of like a standalone thing. Listen, I remember back to the day when I first saw this, I thought it was mid. I kind of feel that way. For me, it's mid. I'd go a little bit up to okay, so above mid. Like mid's here, it's okay. I would say first off, the story didn't do much for me. I didn't really care about the characters, the scientist. I'm sorry they lost his daughter, the character, but we barely got to know them. We knew them less than 5 minutes before that happened. And said, okay, shit happens. I don't know what you want me to say. The lead guy with the Japanese self-defense force, and this other lady, and they're kind of partners. I could take or leave them as characters. The girl is the psychic. See, really none of these characters stood out to me one way or the other. Like I love them or I hate them. It just kind of, They were there to serve the story to move on when Godzilla's not on the screen. I would say the one guy I didn't mind character-wise was Gondo. He just seemed like a bit of a badass. I mean, there's a bit where he's with this bazooka troop that have to fire this stuff that digs into Godzilla's skin so the bacteria hopefully works in screwing up his nuclear energy. He kind of knows he's had it, so he shoots a bazooka right into Godzilla's mouth, which I thought was a badass moment. As a cool shot, we see the missile hit the... I thought that was pretty I mean, if you're going to go, that's the way to go. So I thought he was kind of badass. There's some cool, interesting shots. Very early on, there's this shot where it looks like we're in a pair of cells, and he's pulling back and pulling back through, I guess, all the other cell structure until we realize we're inside Godzilla. We're now on the outside. And at first, when you see the cells, it's like this very creepy music. I don't know how to put it. Like, very, not ethereal, but like really, I don't know how to put it. It was different. And it pulled out, and you see Godzilla. The score I thought was pretty decent. It's not a bad score at all. I like the music in the film. I like the look of Godzilla and when he's off doing his thing. I mean, granted, it's your typical blowing up ships in the water, destroying the city. I mean, granted, that's what you go in for these films, to be fair. I mean, what else he's going to do? Tap fucking dance on the ice with some bitch? Oh, Teen Kong did that. That's right. That shitty Peter Jackson movie. But it's one of those things that if you do watch Godzilla films in a row, which is when I saw some of these first time I did, it kind of got a bit repetitive, and you just see why they take some breaks from time to time with Godzilla, for fear people would feel it's a bit too repetitive. So when they do something unique, that's what, like, Godzilla Final Wars I like, because I thought that was a very unique take on it. I wish some of the fight scenes were longer, but I like Godzilla Final Wars. Godzilla -1 I thought was really good. I still don't have the Blu-ray 4K. Have to get it one day, but I did quite like Godzilla -1. But yeah, bullshit like Shin Godzilla, which I call Shit Godzilla. The American films, I mean, with Aaron Taylor Johnson and the one King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong, I didn't like any of those. In fact, that whole monster universe in the US, I just like Kong Skull Island. That's the only one I liked. So again, the story with the power struggle with over these cells and who wants it, and I don't know, I didn't really care. The characters I was kind of indifferent on. I'll be honest, I'm kind of just waiting for Godzilla to show up. Also, it did this annoying thing where every once in a while it would break, the movie would stop and cut to a computer screen showing text in case, hey, dumb fuck, in case you don't understand what's going on, here's some exposition for you. Computer, text, read this, asshole. I'm like, did you really need that? Because it broke the flow of the story. And also Biollante, while it looks cool, is kind of a bit pussy. Like, really, it's kind of a bit pussy. Like, the look of it is cool. But in his first fight with Godzilla, it trips his legs, it's tailing him for a bit, spits in his face a bit, and then Godzilla's like, goodbye. And then the next time they fight, okay, he's able to hit his hand and his shoulder, tries to eat Godzilla's head, but then Godzilla just turns and go, oh, thanks for the bullseye. And then dead again. Just turns, some gold pixie dust, and there you go. I'm like, what the fuck did this thing even do to Godzilla? I mean, the humans had the bacteria, and the Bazooka Squad hit the damn Godzilla thing. I just maybe work up Godzilla enough so that the bacteria will start working, I guess. Now, it's probably because, I don't know, maybe because of Biollante, it was such a big creation, they couldn't move it a lot. So I'm sure maybe they wanted to do more with this, but it was so gigantic, they were kind of conflicted on what they could do. But again, you just looked at the designs, you looked at the poster, it just seems like, man, this could really give Godzilla a bit of a fight. And it doesn't. It just... The fight between Biollante and Godzilla seemed very quick and very... like, other than spit on, which some people like that as a team, but... it didn't seem like much of a fight. So Biollante kind of came off as a puss. Well, I guess it makes sense because it's a woman in there. It's the guy's daughter, her cells. Which when it dies, it goes up. You see a little image of the girl. So I guess there's a pussy. That's why he fights with a pussy. Because there's the pussy there. There she is. It's the daughter. Pussy made, pussy effective. Pussy given. So but with that said, I do not hate this film. I think that, these films do have their charm to them. The man in suits, the practical effects. I think the look of Biollante Godzilla is very effective in this. When Godzilla is destroying, like I said, I'm just repeating myself. But the ships and the destruction of the city, like I said, I don't really care about the characters. And you can't say, well, who cares about characters? Godzilla -1 cared about characters. That's one of the reasons I really like that. I really like that story. That showed, man, if you really did a good story of characters, Godzilla could be the great cherry on top. Or if you give me a film like Godzilla Final Wars, okay, that's more about just the crazy, gimmicky adrenaline rush is trying to accomplish. So it's one or the other. I'm either enjoying the charm of it, or the goofiness of it, or the action-packed vibe of it, or like Godzilla -1, the story, the character. It's just with this, like, it's okay. It's okay. If I hate it, I would say I hated it. Like Shin Godzilla, I fucking hate. I think that film sucks, in my opinion. Try to remember. GMK I love. That's one of my favorites. Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, all monster out attack. Has the worst title of all of them, but I think it's one of the best ones in my opinion. GMK. Like I said, some of them just come off as kind of meh. This one, again, I would say I liked it better than Return of Godzilla that came out before this. I will say that. So it's a step up from the previous bit. Again, the tears I don't hate. It's just kind of that reaction. I don't know how else to put it. But I mean, it was nice to revisit this again. It's fun to revisit older Godzilla movies. And, I'd rather watch this than what America's doing right now with him. I really would. I'd rather watch this than King of the Monsters that came out a few years ago with Billy Bobby Brown and her fucking brat face. Where's my chocolate milk? Come over here, I'll throw your face. Anyway, I'll take this over that stuff. I'll put it that way. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.